What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Monday, and I know that it's a little late today, but I'm working on some good stuff. And if you didn't know this already, we were just in New York. We had the show. We were sold out. And why am I showing you this if we were sold out and it's in the past? Well, because on the website, thekristianharloff.com, you can actually still watch the whole entire stream. It's available for you guys. If you are a $10 and over member of the site, you can get it, or you can just go get it a la carte. It was a really fun show. It was hilarious. It was sold out. You guys were great. Got to meet a lot of you guys. So thanks for coming by. Don't forget, Katie Sackhoff is doing that show. Her show, Blah, Blah, Blah with Katie Sackhoff, launches this Wednesday on her YouTube channel. And then we're going to be in Comic-Con July 22nd at the American Comedy Company. And you can get tickets at blahblahblahkatie.com. Super excited about that as well. Not done with plugs yet, everybody. Also got to tell you about this. No, not that one. Did that already. Sorry. Where the fuck is it? Do I have it on here? Shoes and Beef. Shoes and Beef. That's right. The animated series. It's coming to the site July 1st, right around the corner. So make sure you check it out. You can go over there at thekristianharloff.com. Make sure you check that out. And then the comic book for Capes and Cow's Big Thing. That will also be available July 1st. You can get that a la carte, or you can join the site. Check it out. All right. I got a special guest here today, man, my buddy Chris Van Vliet. If you haven't seen Chris Van Vliet's stuff, then you are not on social media. You can't miss it. He's got so many great guests, so many great clips, and he's one of the best interviewers out there. And we're going to talk to him about what he's doing with his channel, obviously, some of the movies that he's seen, a little wrestling talk here and there, and we're just going to shoot the shit. So it's my buddy Chris Van Vliet. We'll talk about our time at the Netflix party together. We'll talk about that also. But let's get into it, everybody. It's the big thing. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It is the big thing, and it's Monday. Yeah, it was a little late, like I said, but went to New York, and then I knew I got this character coming in. What's up, man? How you doing?
So good to see you, man.
You too.
Look what you built out here.
Well, I mean, you're very kind, and you say, and the first thing you said is when you said, "Look at the studio," and everything,
look at this.
And you're the most genuine guy I know, but you're also very humble. Like what you've been able to do lately has been nuts. You got so many. Your interviews that you get, the people that you get, the building out the channel, everything about it, and you understand the space, and it's. I always kind of push people towards you when they wonder how to build a brand, and because you do something that I would, and I don't know if you're going to be able to. I'm curious because now you're a dad now, so I wondered. Yeah. You said something that I was like, yeah, that's a guy who's going to continue to be successful because he's got the right mentality. You got the wrestler's mentality of, all right, well, I have an interview, and it's with whether it's Chris Jericho or whoever it might be. But I got to drive 4 hours to get it.
Yeah.
Can you do that now?
I think I have to. It's the job, right?
Even with the little lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I give you.
I
all
don't
the
know.
in the world. Yeah. No.
I don't know.
I know. Right. Because you're so new to it.
Yeah. She's 4 weeks old today.
Right.
So I don't know.
Right.
That was the great thing about when I was really intentional about my channel. And by the way, this is why you've been so popular and why your channel's growing so much is you've been intentional. You know, you don't do all of this by accident.
Right.
You've been intentionally going, okay, I'm going to do X amount of podcasts a week and we're going to talk about this specific thing. You've been so good at that. When I really dialed into it in like 2019, I was just like, if someone is going to say yes, they will do an interview with me, I will find my way to get there. I'll drive 4 hours, 5 hours. I'll book a flight using miles or whatever. I'll pay for my own hotel, whatever. If you say yes, I will find my way to go there. I don't know what happens now with the baby.
It's tough. But
I like that grind, though.
I know.
I love the grind.
I understand that for sure. I really do. I mean, even being on the road for myself this week, my wife. I was on the phone with her after the set. She's like, "You seem so happy when you get off the stage." I was like, "Well, it was also a good set, so that's also when you have a decent set." Then yes, you feel good about it, but it's also that grind, like you said. It's like the travel in there to do it. Like it makes you feel like you're alive. You know, you're doing that thing. But there's also that the same. My family was away for like 6 days before I left in New York, and then I got back and I only saw them for a day, and then I was gone again. I was like, I want to see my family again. So it's like, it's funny to hear you say that. You're like, I don't know yet. I don't know the answer to that, because it's like one of those things as you get. Because you're only gone, even if you're only, how long are you usually gone if you have to drive, if you just to drive for like 4 hours?
Oh, that's like a day trip.
Right.
So like I had one yesterday.
Okay.
Where I did a junket yesterday.
Okay.
And I left in the morning at like 9-ish, and I got back at like 10 p.m.
Right.
It was, 13 hours away from the house. Yeah, it's because of where we live. We live in Orange County, so it makes it's a little bit of a drive, an extra maybe hour compared to living here. But I mean, I just enjoy the grind. I mean, and as we sit here, you're cutting between shots here. You love the grind too.
I mean, it's almost like it's just part of you now too, right? Because my wife was even saying, it's like, how long do you really want to kind of push and do it this way? Because you're, if I don't mind, what are you, like 38?
I just turned 40.
Right. So I'm a little older than you are, right? So it is one of those things, and I think even when I was I just turned 40. I was at AMC or Collider rather, and it's that push. You get that satisfaction of, okay, well, I put this work in. It's like you always want the saying of hard work pays off to come to fruition, right?
Sure.
And it's such a kick in the nuts sometimes when it doesn't. But it's almost, I think it's built in because I've been to a place where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, and then I'm like, that's that switch that goes, no, you can't stop.
Yeah.
It's just that I think it's built in certain people.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
I think the realization for me is when I realized when you work a salary job and you could be the hardest working person there or the laziest person there, you're going to make the same amount of money.
Right.
And that was the thing, was like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, show up early, work your ass off, and get paid the same amount as someone.
I mean, you can get promotions, but I hear what you're saying, right?
Yeah, like if you were on a salary and like that's how much your money you're making, that's that.
Right.
I was like, well, I'd rather put in really hard work, and then I'm the one in control of how much money you make at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing, right? It's like, okay, you push hard, and that's why I tell people, like, and we'll talk about it a little later in the episode, is that where for our business, like, sponsors are like crucial,
sure,
right? And and I know that you do the same thing. It's like when you find sponsors that you like, that you want, that your audience will like, because it's beneficial to them, and it's obviously beneficial to your show, right? But you've got to put that push out there and say,
and if you have sponsors like where your audience isn't going to buy it, those sponsors aren't coming back.
They're not coming back. They're going to give you like one thing, and then it's like,
like a trial, and like,
right.
Oh, that didn't work.
Right.
And I've had many of those.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of those things where you understand, because as a consumer of like YouTube and other things too, you're like, oh, I want to get to the point where someone's talking this, where are your time codes? And then when someone puts in well, I skipped over just to get to this, and I'm like, oh, they missed the fucking ad. So they might have missed, because they might have missed that they legit, what if some guy who's got his beard is a freaking mess, and he's like, I got nothing, his bullshit. He's like, I'm going to skip to the Flash conversation, and he missed Manscaped, right? Where he could have gotten the beard trimmer. He could have done, they're not even sponsored today's episode. I'm just saying, though, but like, it's like, it's one of those things, but it does benefit the show, benefits you. And then, like you said, you put that grind in there, and then you get your channel. Like your Clips channel is kind of blowing up, and I'm sure that's one of your biggest sources of revenue.
Yeah, that's one of them. And you raised such a good point there about like having sponsorships and like the audience appreciating it. I really wish that audiences were, if you really love your creator, if you love Kristian and you love supporting this channel, like, actually support the channel. And it's amazing to me how many passive viewers there are on YouTube. If you like a video and you watch it, actually click the like button on it. Right. It's amazing to me how many people don't do that. I could have a video with 100,000 views and there's like 1,400 likes. It's like, come on, guys, it's free and it takes you no time to do it.
I think, though, it's also human nature in general, of where what I learned years ago is that's why call to actions and fun call to actions are crucial, because I know for myself as well, there's someone right now who's listening to us on YouTube, watching, going, oh yeah, the like button, I totally forgot.
Yeah, so guys,
and then they just did it.
Perfect.
But they might have forgot to, because we didn't talk about it, right? And it's like, sometimes you just go, I'm just watching it, I get a kick out of this person, and it's the same thing. Like I said, I always tell people there's tons of ways you can support the channel, whether it's liking, commenting, because not everybody can afford to get a particular sponsor or buy a RUMPL blanket, whatever those things. They can't do it, but there's other people who just click that like, hit a comment, share it, tell people about it. That's what helps, and that is part of the grind, as you say.
And I wish that was talked about more in the creator culture or the creator world that we're in right now, that like it is so simple to just click like on a video, or if there's something that stands out about it, just leave a quick comment.
Right.
That goes such a long way with the creator. It also makes you feel like appreciated.
It does, and it's like one of those things where I'm sure you do the same thing. You're kind of a stats guy like myself. I look at as the episode goes up and it says this episode is performing as usual, or this episode is doing better, and it's like you always want to see that arrow that it's doing better because more people are sharing it, more people are liking it. Like I put out, like I had Amber Midthunder on last week, right, and she was amazing. Like she's gonna be a superstar. Amazing. She was so good in Prey and like just really, really great interview. And I looked and it was like it's lower than usual. And I'm like, hit the fucking like button, guys, for the people who are watching, because like every comment is going, this is a great interview. I love talking to her. I love that you had her on. I was like, let people know that, because the algorithm is an asshole.
Yeah.
It's a real asshole. It'll say like, okay, no
That's a good way of putting it.
The algorithm's an asshole. It's like, okay, look, tell you what, not enough people are commenting on this and liking it, so I'm not telling other people about it.
Yeah.
But eventually, the good thing with interviews, as you know, you can have one that does not great in the beginning and then like just catches fire. Like Josh Horowitz is the king of that.
Like years later it can catch fire.
That's right.
Reddit's a big like pour the gasoline on the fire. They'll find something like, 6 years later of like, can you believe that this person talked about this thing back then? We didn't even know what they were talking about. Now it all makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, today I got tagged in that Anne Hathaway viral video that happened 12 years ago.
That's hilarious.
I get tagged in that like once a week. Actually, I also got tagged in the one we talked about last time, the Leslie Mann, Dakota Johnson interview. That was 7 years ago. I get tagged in that every week.
It's so funny though, that one again. If like for both those, that's how I first like knew about you.
That's
like,
so funny.
Yeah, when I first heard about you, it was through that one, and I was like going, man, my 25-year-old self really wants to be this guy right now.
I was 28 when the Anne Hathaway one happened.
Single?
Yes,
Yes,
I was
you were
single in both of
time.
those.
Both of those. So that's why you got to walk out of that going, all right, I feel all right by myself.
I think I walked out of the Anne Hathaway one going, I could have phrased that question.
Oh yeah, the Anne
better.
Hathaway one for sure. But she played it off like a champ, and she was also I thought she was she played it off really, really well. It's so. What do you think it is about Anne Hathaway? Because I find with Anne Hathaway, I don't know if you find this too. I used to talk about this on the Schmoes all the time, and I think it's less now. But back in the day, it always seemed to me like dudes loved her, but women had an issue with her.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I never knew why that was. Like it was always like, every guy I talked to was like, I love Anne Hathaway. Obviously attractive, but really good actress.
So talented.
So good. And then I always remember like there was we used to give crap to one of our co-hosts. And I was like, let me ask you a question. Why do you hate Anne Hathaway? I don't hate her. I just don't like her. But never a fan of Anne. She wasn't a fan of Anne Hathaway. And then there was a couple people, women, that I found that didn't like her. But I think that's changed.
Don't you find, though, that a lot of people will like an actor based on a character that they like?
Maybe.
So they will project a lot.
Maybe.
I think that happens a lot. Maybe
it could.
A lot of projecting.
Yeah, and but I think she's fantastic. I like the way that she actually handled herself.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, because we've all been there. We've asked questions sometimes. Like, I know what I was.
I was trying to ask a fitness question, which I ask of lots of different actors and actresses. I just didn't phrase it very well. Okay.
What was the actual phrasing?
I said, the photos just came out as you as Catwoman. Right. How did you fit into that suit? And she's like, like bench kicks and tricep curls or something. I'm like, you're in phenomenal shape. How much weight did you have to lose to get into this role? She's like, how much weight did I lose? What a forward young man you are. And I'm like, well, yeah, come on. But what's so interesting is I've asked so many actors about, how much weight did you lose / gain for this role? And it's never, she just made a joke out of it. It was fun.
It was great. I thought it was amazing. It is a good clip. You can see why that clip has legs for sure. But you've been getting a lot of legs in the wrestling space. Even more so, you've always been involved in it. You've always been a hardcore wrestling fan, and now you're getting into. It seems like you're getting everybody now. So is it the WWE just kind of becoming more aware of your stuff and giving you more access? Because you're getting a lot of people.
I've always had interviews with WWE, but they've just been really kind recently.
Yeah.
And they've also opened it up. They've been a lot more media friendly. Like WWE used to never have these. WWE never had these like junkets that they have now.
Right.
So for WrestleMania, they had 2 days of press coverage where you just went into a big ballroom at a hotel or
interviewed everybody.
Yeah, and they just brought people around.
What's funny about that is I got invited to that.
Hey.
Yeah, but I didn't get tickets to WrestleMania. So I was like, and a lot of people didn't. And I was like, I had just, and honestly, I had avoided COVID for 3 years, and I got it like 2 weeks before WrestleMania, and it leveled me. Like it took me out of like hosting on the channel. It leveled me, and I was still showing a little bit of a line at the time anyway when the press stuff came out, but I didn't get tickets to WrestleMania. I wanted to take my daughter to it because it was in LA, and then I was like, just for the interviews, my channel, like for you, it makes. Did you go to WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
And by the way, WWE doesn't comp WrestleMania tickets like for media.
They do though.
Not for WrestleMania.
Really?
All the other events, absolutely, but I've never had a comp ticket for WrestleMania. I got a press pass and kind of just floated around and was in the press box, which was really cool.
But not tickets, actually.
Not
tickets.
a ticket, yeah.
Right. All right. Well, either
It was
way,
actually famous people they comp tickets for.
that makes sense. But I said, I was like, either way, I was going to try to get tickets or try that, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. Plus, I wanted to take my daughter, but. For someone like yourself, it makes sense regardless to go, even if you didn't get tickets to WrestleMania, you go because you have all these different people that are there star-wise. And what do you think, I mean, with everything going on? I know that when WrestleMania happened, it was like right before the buyout with Endeavor. Yeah. And then the next day is still widely regarded as like the worst Raw of all time. And after Vince comes back, does this thing.
Terrible.
Really bad. I'll be honest, I haven't watched as much. I watched the other day, and I know what they were doing with the Bloodline and how that storyline's been playing out again is pretty good. But has it gotten better? Is Vince still involved? What's the latest?
It sounds like Vince is involved.
Yeah.
But I think WWE is definitely on a high right now.
Okay.
Like Triple H even said it at the night one press conference. He's like, we're hot right now. And it's true. A lot of eyes on WWE. And I think that's in part because of the Bloodline storyline. Mm-hmm. That's, in my opinion, a top 5 storyline of all time. Yeah. It's so good. But it's also in part of like, you've got Logan Paul there.
He's really good, man.
He has no business being that good. He is really so good.
Yeah, he's really good.
I've been saying this to friends. He's the new Shane McMahon. Because you put him in a match and you never know what he's going to do. He's going to steal the show.
And I think he's more athletic than Shane.
Absolutely.
And like I'm not necessarily I can't say I was a fan of his. I can't say like when I never watched his stuff when he was coming up on YouTube, and when all the shit went down with him, I was like, who's this fucking douche? You know, like everybody else. But when they announced him in wrestling, I'm like, okay, this is another gimmick.
Yeah.
You cannot call that guy a gimmick. You can't.
He's so good.
You can't. That thing he did with Rey Mysterio, Ricochet, excuse me. With Ricochet, when they jump from each side of the ring, and like, I mean, that guy puts his body out there, and he's not disrespectful of the wrestlers, and he's giving, and he's trying to protect them. He's just naturally.
Yes.
I mean, and he boxed. I mean, he fought Mayweather.
Mayweather. Whether you like him or you hate him, you have to respect what he's doing.
You have to. It's impossible not to.
And I think that the bar for celebrities was pretty low for a while, and then Bad Bunny came in and raised that bar so high. Like Bad Bunny.
Karl Malone.
Okay. Or Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman or Karl Malone.
Or Drew Carey.
Oh my God! Remember Buster Douglas? Do you know? Remember how the whole Buster Douglas thing came to be?
No, how?
Because Mike Tyson was supposed to be the ref for Hogan and Savage during that whole Saturday Night's Main Event thing, and then Buster Douglas beat Tyson.
Oh, right.
So they went and they got Buster Douglas.
Man.
And it was like, it still was ratings gold because, he's the hottest thing in sports at the time. Yeah. And just beating Iron Mike. But like, yeah, I mean, that was before Tyson came in during the Stone Cold Shawn Michaels thing.
During the DX.
Yeah. So it's like, it's nuts. I find myself going through YouTube, like watching a lot of the old school things. I would watch that Iron Sheik and Hogan title match so many different times.
Really?
So many different times, but now I can't watch it the same.
Oh, yeah.
No, but even before that. Even before he passed. Do you know the thing? What
do you mean?
Guy had a fucking heart on when he goes to put the camel clutch on Hogan, he's got a raging heart on.
What?
Yeah, I never.
Is this like public knowledge?
It is now.
Oh wow!
So you'll never watch the match the same because this happened like 4 days before the Sheik died, right? There was, I can't remember the guy's name. I'm sure you know him. He's a guy who was doing shoot interviews forever, but he hosts a show at Kevin Nash now.
Oh, Sean Oliver.
Sean Oliver brought it up to the Sheik on his show a while ago, but then brought it up again to Nash. Because he brought it up to the Sheik, and the Sheik's like, "Oh yes, of course." And it's insane. It's insane. It's like you get it's like right before he puts in the camel clutch. He's got his own camel sticking out of the side, but it's but all these other clips, but like that pop up through like YouTube. I'm trying to do work. These old school clips. Like I watched a whole thing of Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels.
And
like
this comes full circle back to what we kind of briefly mentioned before is like clips are such an important thing right now.
Are.
And people keep saying, oh, clips are important because people's attention span is so small. And that's not it. That's not it. Why clips work is because it's a taste test.
Right.
If I were to send you a 3-hour podcast and go, oh man, you got to see this guest on Joe Rogan, you're going to go, yeah, thanks, man. But I don't have 3 hours to watch this.
Right.
But if I send you a 37-second clip of that exact same thing or the point I wanted you to see, well, you're probably going to watch that.
Yeah.
So the reason that clips work is it's a taste test to show people you probably never heard of me before, you've never heard of my show, but you probably know the guest that I'm interviewing. There's a little just taste.
Well, it's also part of like we said before with the algorithm, right? So if I see Chris Van Vliet clip and it keeps popping up and I keep watching your clips, well, then every time I open up my homepage, I'm now going to get another recommended Chris Van Vliet clip. Yeah,
I hope so.
Well, it is, and it's like, and so it's same thing with how Instagram and everything works too. I see your stuff all the time because whether I'm either liking it or watching it through, that's why it's recommended.
Likewise, I see your stuff all the time. I've also I doubled down on content. I think even since I doubled down the last time I saw you, I post across all platforms. I'm probably posting like 20, 25 times a day.
Wow. See, like that was the thing when we had, so as I mentioned to you and people know now that I'm producing Katie Sackhoff's podcast, and like the way that I've known her now for 16 years, whatever it is, but like she was on my show recently and we had a bunch of clips that went viral, and all the clips that we put out on shorts and everything all across the board, just something like 13 million views across the board. I mean,
wow.
On that, because of a lot of different things that had popped. And then it also just made me like, the thing that's tough with me is because I have a few other people that I work with, but like for the most part, it's really me. I have someone who helps me out with shorts. I have somebody who is, Brett Sheridan helps me out with this stuff. I have somebody who helps manage the site. But for the most part, when I'm actually uploading and posting this stuff, it's all on me. Yeah. And like this past weekend, it's tough. You know, I'm like, okay, oh yeah, I got to post this. I have like a backlog of shorts in my email that I have to post, but it's a matter of when you do it, how you do it, and it's also when you have the time to do it.
I just realized that I was editing, I was doing all the jobs, right? I was wearing all the hats, and I realized I'm not that great of an editor. I can do it, but I'm like a 4 out of 10. What if I were to be able to hire someone who's a 10 out of 10, and then I could take some of that time to do what I'm better at, which is researching for interviews, booking interviews, doing them.
Yeah.
And that's what I just started building out my team. Like I can make a graphic. It's not very good, but I can make a graphic or a thumbnail.
That's what I do. I've been working on thumbnails, and like I'm better. I'm better. Like you look. I mean, compared to what I was doing like a year ago.
Yeah, your thumbnails are way better.
Yeah, now they are, but they were horrendous in the beginning.
You also have the benefit of having an audience that's going to show up for every episode. Like a certain percentage of your audience is going to show up whether you're talking to someone very famous or whether you're talking to me. So it's great.
Yeah, I mean it has that benefit also from the built-in audience from Against Schmoes and Schmodown and those things too, for sure. And I met so many of them again in New York. They're just so loyal, and it's crazy and surreal at the same time, right? Because they're just like people that you see and people that have been to shows before and people who you know are commenting, and like I met a few people who are like, oh, I'm so and so with the username, and I've seen your name all the time, and it's like so that is beneficial, and it is one of those things that as far as community goes and what's so important about it. But it's like it's all of it combined. It really is all of it combined. The posting, thumbnails, like as I'm working with Katie's show, we have, I told you, like I'm not saying it publicly yet, but like who our first like 3 guests are.
It's amazing.
People are going to lose their minds.
Crazy.
They're going to lose their minds.
Yeah.
It's like that's where I can't do thumbnails for. That one I have to outsource for that one. I've got to.
And you should.
Yeah, because it's like only not even because like I don't have the time for it, just because like I want the absolute like my last like there was a thumbnail that I did with Roxy and I the other day, and I was like, oh, it looks like somebody else did that. I like that.
Hey,
I was like,
look at you.
I was like, and then I'll do another one with a guy that didn't work because it's too fast if you do it. But it's just like it's teaching you things like this whole thing and learning this.
My world has changed when Shorts allowed you to start to pick the thumbnail.
Yeah,
because that wasn't a thing for a long time.
Wasn't.
You just uploaded the video, you picked the title, and then they picked a frame they thought would be a good frame. Now that you can pick your own thumbnail, you
Yeah.
can't upload one, but you can pick a frame.
Right.
That's changed everything for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think that. So I think that one of the things with you, because for me, what I found, because I had started to get into shorts because I was like, well, I really want to utilize that for YouTube, and I really want to do that, and I was like, and then I'll post it on TikTok and I'll post it on Instagram. Instagram, my things do the best there. Because YouTube for true, like sometimes it'll sometimes it'll pick up, sometimes it'll catch, sometimes it won't. But they talked shit, meaning, the monetization's going to start in February.
Oh,
It's
don't
garbage.
get me started. It's awful.
It's garbage.
Like, I could pull up the numbers right now, but I have videos with 10, 20 million views, and I made like
$200 tops.
yeah.
Right?
And if that was a vertical, or sorry, not a vertical video, if it was a 16 by 9,
Yeah, right.
I'd be living in Beverly Hills off that money.
No, so that's what I tell people though too, because I do my out of the theater reactions, and I had done one as a short one time, and it did like whatever was 70,000 views, and then I did one vertical.
No, like 16 by 9.
Yeah.
Horizontal,
excuse me, and the Doctor Strange that did vertical, and then it was half the time. And it was 30,000 or something instead of like the 65,000 that it did, but it made significantly more on AdSense because that's just the way. And it was only a minute and a half as opposed to 59 seconds.
You have keyed in on something so brilliant with those out of the theater reactions. Also, how do you skirt around this when they say it's review embargo and social embargo?
I never do it when there's no social embargo.
Okay.
Social embargo. Yeah,
I do appreciate how you're like, this is not a review. The full review will be coming next week. This is just my reaction. This is not a review, by the way.
Yeah, you got to right away after. Yeah,
I love it
because the way that I look at it is, there are some people that have tried to do it since, and they haven't gotten busted for it. But I think eventually they will. They'll do the out of the theater reactions where they're doing like a full on review. The way that I do it is I make sure that I look and I say, okay, what's my tweet? And
Smart.
Because if you look at the reactions, it's only like, okay, I talk about the acting.
Yep.
I talk about how I felt about the movie.
Yeah, you talk about the crowd reaction,
and that's it. There's no real big, like, I don't go into the full, like, the story details and this and that. It's a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and if it is any longer than that, and it's because the social embargo has dropped.
Do you like rush to your car and upload it the second you get in your car? So you're the first one. So smart.
It depends on the movie.
Yeah.
Right. Like so. Like it just depends on the movie.
Like if we do tomorrow, we're going to go see Mission Impossible. But
Yeah.
I think the reactions are already out for that.
Yeah. So I'll record it from the Paramount lot, upload it. But what I do is I usually record it, upload it, and then I go home and then make the thumbnail and re-upload the thumbnail.
That makes sense.
Because it's
smart.
because there's certain movies. Because the thing is that there's a few other people that do them.
Yeah.
The out of the theater reaction, and it's amazing how, and I can only imagine what AI is going to do for the algorithm down the line. Because like right now, the way that it works is that because I do the out of the theater reactions a lot, I will see that the YouTube will push mine out there.
Yep.
Because I'm one of the few people who started doing it.
And your click-through rate on those is probably pretty high.
They're pretty good. So
Yeah.
but the flip side of that is like reactions, right? Like trailer reactions. Trailer reactions, if I don't get it up right away, then I usually either don't do it, or I just have to bite the bullet because Real Rejects will catch that algorithm first, or there's other people who've just been doing it for a lot longer.
I'm going to give an unpopular opinion here, but I think trailer reactions are so stupid.
See,
Because all you do is go, oh, there's that thing. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. How is that going to play into this? Oh, that's crazy. That's it.
It depends. It depends. I think that there's an argument to be made for that, but I think the argument against it is, again, as I brought up the Real Rejects, right? Greg and John and Coy, they have such insight like afterwards that
I get it.
That they have
But
it.
that's
like,
more of a trailer review then.
It's a reaction and a review.
But when it's literally 2.5 minutes
you're
of
saying
like,
you're saying people clicking on it just to watch people reacting to it.
yeah, and it's like I'll just watch the actual trailer and make my own reactions.
I do it, but I will say,
and this isn't a knock on you at all, of course.
No, I understand what you're saying. You're not. That is not an unpopular opinion. There are a lot of people that feel that way, and I think that. I mean, I used to hear from people at Collider that used to be so opposed to it and would I think would go after people for doing it all the time, which I think is
look, it's low hanging fruit, and that's what the internet's all about.
I said I wouldn't go that far with it.
Really?
No, I wouldn't go that far with
Okay.
it because I think that there is a thing to it. I think there is. Now, there are some people that just kind of won't react to it or do what I don't like. It's not the reactions themselves, because I think that trailer reactions, I actually think they can be, like I will go and, like, let's say an episode reaction, right, of like The Mandalorian, and I want to see how people reacted to when Luke Skywalker showed up, and I want to see, I like watching that kind of stuff. What I don't like is the fabricated reactions. That I can't stand, because it's like I would much rather somebody be like this, as opposed to it's like what are you doing? It's like, that's not real.
Yeah.
And like Greg and John do not do that. Like they don't do that. But like there are people that I see that just do these over the top reactions. Like, come on, I would much rather just go.
Yeah, if you were sitting there watching it with your friends or your wife or your kids or whatever, you're probably just gonna go, "Oh, hey, that's pretty cool."
Right.
Huh, nice.
Well, so look, I did an episode reaction to Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Did you watch the season? No. Okay. There's one particular moment, without spoiling for anybody, that happens, and I legit was like, no, and I'm going, oh, that's how I would react in my house, and I did. There are certain times, but like I said, it's authentic. And it's like, you're going to catch those. If you have the camera on you enough, you're going to catch those moments.
Yeah.
But you're also going to, sometimes, like, there was a guy who said one time, this guy's just kind of staring and laughing a little bit. He's not really, what do you want me to do?
That's how people watch TV.
Yeah, you want me to do a headstand? Every time somebody shows up, it's like no.
But it's weird when people are treating like an episode of TV like it's the Super Bowl. Like, of course, you've seen the reaction videos of people like smashing their TV or throwing a beer bottle through the TV. Like, that is true, genuine, like just passion.
Right.
This is the team that you've wanted to win the Super Bowl or championship or whatever sport it is for years and years and years and years, and they have you right there, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah, sure. But I do think that there's something to, like, I think that more so there are too many people who do reactions, and a lot of it is because I think that they feel it's low-hanging fruit, that they feel like that's an easy way to build their channel. That I don't necessarily disagree with, but I do think that there are people who are really good at it and very entertaining at it.
Look, all of this is a very crowded space.
Yeah.
Like, when you're talking about someone launching a new podcast or someone starting a new YouTube channel, it's all very, very crowded. But to quote our friend, the Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream rises to the top.
Cream rises to the top. Ooh, yeah.
That's so, you should have been on camera for that. My goodness.
The cream rises to the top.
The cream rises to the top. Oh, yeah. Optimus Prime. That's one I'm working on. I was doing the one, it was, I wanted to do Optimus Prime and Gary Busey having a.
Oh, let's hear.
Gary, get over here.
Optimus Prime, I would appreciate it. You did not put your oil spill next to my bathrobe, because it allows me to chew on the bathrobe with a bagel.
Shut up! Hurry! Get him to the doctor. That's all I got. I've been working on nonsense.
I feel like every wrestling fan has 3 impressions. Every wrestling fan can do Macho Man.
Yeah.
They can do Hulk Hogan.
Let me tell you something, brother.
Yeah.
Everyone can do that. And then everyone has a bit of a Stone Cold at some point. Like, what? Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. What?
Yeah.
I don't know what else I would say. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Well, you got Chris Van Vliet. Chris Van Vliet. Now, you come over here and you're wandering around talking about you can't react. You can't react to this. You can't react to that. Well, The Rock says you can react to me backslapping your candy ass.
Well, The Rock says this. You take that little microphone there, shine it up real nice. Turn that sumbitch sideways and stick it straight up your candy ass.
That's the best. I did. So I didn't.
That wasn't even a good Rock impression.
That was better. It was good. It was good. I did one for Schmodown.
Who'd you do it for? It doesn't matter who you did it for.
Did I tell you my Rock story?
Please.
Dude, so that gave me PTSD. So there's a clip of me when I worked for WWE that Shane was like, "Hey, do you want to do a scene with The Rock?"
Oh, you're backstage, right?
Yeah, and so and he walks up to me and he goes, "Excuse The Rock," and I'm like, yeah, he's like, "Can you tell me where the APA office is?" And I'm like, "It's down the hall." And he's like, "Thanks." And he walks by and he goes, "You new here?" And I was like, "Yeah, my name is." He goes, "The Rock," and I go, and he walks away. So fast forward to He's gone now. You know, he just made the rundown. So this is like 2002-ish, right? So there's a party. UTA was, I think it was still a thing at the time. They had this big party. So I go to and like my friend at the time had invited The Rock. And Rock in this whole room. He's sitting there talking to people. And he's like, hey, you know, you worked with The Rock for a little bit. I was like, yeah, I did. He's like, you want to go talk to him? I go, hey, sure, why not? So I go walk over. He's like, hey, Dwayne. And you know, you've talked to him a handful of times. He's just like the most giving guy in the world.
The best.
And he's like, Dwayne, this guy, you know, said he used to work with you at WWE. So he's like, hey, we used to work together. And I was like, yeah. And I told him the whole scene and everything too. And we sat there and we talked for like, it was a while.
Wow.
It was a while. And he was talking to people. He didn't have to give me that time, and he did. And it was this party. And then we stopped talking. We were both there to the end of the party. So the party ends, and it's like, you know, 2 a.m, whatever it is, and he walks up and he goes, he's like, hey, dude, it was great seeing you and talking to you. I was like, yeah, you too, man. He's like, tell me your name again. I go, Chris. He goes, I go, you son of a bitch, got me twice. So, and, you know, I've never seen him since then.
I'm sure you will.
I know. It was 20 years ago the last time I saw him.
Wow.
About 20, a little over 20 years ago.
And he was that kind then. He's even kinder and
Right.
more generous now.
His memory is like an elephant.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I saw him at Black Adam.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done an interview with him in 4 years in person. And I was there the night before, just happened to be at the SLS where the junket was. And I was just hanging out with my buddy, Jake Hamilton, who's just a rock star when it comes to junket interviews. We were just standing around the lobby, and the Rock's security walked by. We're like, oh, that means the Rock's about to walk by. So sure enough, Rock walked by. He's like 30 feet away, sees us. And I was figuring he'd just go, hey, what's up? Sees us, walks over and goes, Jake, Chris, how you guys been? And I'm like, you did not need to, one, come over or remember our names.
I'm sure The Rock appreciates your hustle, though, because that's like kind of like,
I hope so.
I'm sure he does, dude. Like because he's so tuned in to like social media and that type of stuff too, you know, and the clips that are going around, because he is his own brand, you know, so he's got to pay attention to which clips are going around. And a lot of the clips, the clip that you put out of him of the quote that he gave about about being kind, is that the one?
Yeah.
Like that
it's
one.
nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
That's right. That
Such
that
a
one.
good quote.
It's a great quote, but it's gone around. So like, if I'm him and I'm looking around, like, who was the one that clip? Yeah, I remember that clip. That was during Van Vliet's interview.
Yeah.
Oh, Van Vliet. Here's this thing where like you tell him about you were having a kid, and he gives you a hug.
That was a cool moment.
Yeah, and like those things, like that, I'm sure he pays attention to that, because like that, as much as I'm not saying this is the only reason he does this, obviously, but it's still, when those clips go around, it helps his brand. It pushes his brand.
And like he was like, "Are you still living in Miami?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm living out here now." He's like, "Oh, that's great, man. That's a good move for you."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?" And then my friend Mark came over and he goes, The Rock was just making small talk with you, like not the other way around." I was like, "I know." It's crazy.
It's awesome. And
he's such a good dude.
Yeah. And so what do you think? You think he's getting a bad rap for, because it's so strange how it kind of comes around with him, right? You look at what happened with all the DC stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that you don't really know the behind the scenes of, because of the transition from when Zaslav got in power and who The Rock was dealing with at that time, when he was trying to get Cavill in there, when he had to go around people to in order to get his movie made. Black Adam has a massive budget, and it does okay. Mm-hmm. It barely breaks even as far as overall, but in hindsight, The Flash does less than Black Adam, right? And then Shazam 2 eats a pile of shit. So if you're the Rock, you're going,
yeah. If I was The Rock, I'd be going, "Hey, you were giving me a hard time for Black Adam. What about this?
Right.
What's going on here?"
right? Like look what I was able to do with the property that just doesn't seem to be pushing for people. So it's a weird thing.
I think that people go out of their way to try to find a reason to not like The Rock, because, you know, like things go pretty well for him, right? And he's worked really, really hard to be in the position that he's in. And I think that like when the numbers started to come out, the early numbers were coming out for Black Adam. It was amazing going on Twitter and being like, well, there it is. The Rock's a failure. It's like, okay, so it's his biggest opening ever. And you're making a big deal about the fact that it's not meeting the tracking right now. Like, come on.
I think it's less of a Rock problem. The Black Adam is, as much as it is a Hollywood thing right now, where I'm sure Rock and everybody pushed for like a high budget in that movie. I think budgets are way too high on films right now. They're way too high, especially on movies that aren't like, the only reason that Black Adam did well at all was because of The Rock, was because of Henry Cavill. And I should say, the only reason it broke even was because of those two guys, right?
Yeah.
Because of the star power. Because Black Adam, is, nobody really knows that character at all. You knew him because The Rock put him out there in the forefront.
But that whole thing was an optics thing. Like the whole like whose side are we on with this? It all just came down to who got the press out earlier.
It's true.
And then I saw a tweet like 2 weeks ago where it was like the XFL lost $60 million last season. Young Rock just got canceled and Black Adam was a flop. Like, sucks to be the Rock. It's like, what? Like, why are we hating on a successful person like that?
Well, I think that it's also it's human history, man. Like they love you when you're coming up.
Yeah.
They love to watch you fall down, and then they love to watch you get back up again.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
But I just think that when people are successful and they're doing well, we love to be able to go, ha, but not right now.
Right. It's that thing of like, okay, we get it. You're really, really good looking. You're popular. You make money all the time. So, oh, you're not that great.
That's it.
You're not that great. It's like
that's it.
Yeah, it's like you want to make sure that you can fall down. It's like it's just the way human nature has always been. You look at like even we were just talking about Mike Tyson, and like Tyson, I remember people would every week would just gather around. It's a Tyson fight. It's a Tyson fight. You got to watch Tyson. Tyson's going to beat everybody. And then when he lost to Buster Douglas, see, he's not that good. He lost. And Mike had his own demons, and he lost because he was out partying his balls off the night before when he should have been getting ready.
Tyson's an interesting one because if he went to jail for a felony conviction now, he'd be canceled forever.
You would think so, but he's an anomaly.
He kind of falls into the same category as like Donald Trump, where it's like, we kind of expect it from
Mike.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's weird though with him as well too, because it's like there's just something about because the weird thing about Tyson and that whole thing with the conviction and everything too is that Mike admitted to a lot of crimes that he'd done in his lifetime, things that he had done and things that he had been with women and the ways he'd done stuff too. But that's the one he was adamant about, that he's like, I've done some shit, but I didn't do that.
And whether you believe
whether
him
you believe it or not,
or not is beside the point here. But now you can have a bad tweet about somebody like, hey, yeah, I consented to that, but it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. And then that person gets canceled. Yet on the flip side of it, you've got someone who went to prison for rape. And we're like, yeah, well, let's put him in movies. And
it is. It's a weird thing how that plays off with. But it is also the way that people handle things as well too. You look at look at Joey Diaz, right? Joey Diaz, who I knew from the Comedy Store, was always super kind to me. It was always really, really nice to me, and I always liked Joey. Joey, a lot of things came out about Joey and things that he said about things in the belly room and all these things too that happened. And people went after him, and they tried. And he's like, "What the fuck, man? I don't fucking understand. I've been doing this fucking shit. People gonna fucking cancel me. Try to cancel me, bro." He's going, nothing happened there because it's like who he is.
You're right. It is about how you react.
It's how you react to it, and it's also who does your audience know you are? Like, it's like there's certain things that are said throughout. Like, okay, look, I like that person. I like this. It's like did that person trick me? That person do this? Did that person do that? Like, you look at like Roseanne when Roseanne got canceled, right? Roseanne was out there tweeting some fucking really like bad shit, all fucked up, and her audience that. She was just back on television now, and her audience who was buying her as this mom again, well, that's not who I'm buying into.
Yeah.
So it's like this new thing, and now she's starting to make a comeback now too. There's always less comebacks. Like I said before, it's like
yeah, seriously. Like look at Robert Downey Jr. Like
totally.
That's probably the best example of a comeback.
Yeah,
where it's like that guy was down and out.
Right.
Nobody wanted to hire him. Wasn't there a story that he was uninsurable?
They wouldn't insure him and it was. So Downey and Favreau have been buddies, and Favreau made the push. He had just done. So I was working at Silver Pictures at the time when all that shit went down. Like where he was cleaned up by then. When he did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but that movie's super underrated, and they didn't push. Warner Brothers did not push that movie at all. It's a fantastic film. But he was starting to do movies like that, and then Favreau and him, I forget how whatever it might have been. Like there was this whole interview that Downey did with Feige, Favreau did with Feige about the Iron Man and how it all came to be. And apparently, Downey was interviewing or auditioning for Fantastic Four and all these different things, and it was putting him in. But Paramount didn't want him. Paramount's like for Iron Man, they're like. He's going to wind up doing the Ally McBeal thing all over again. And, it's just one of those Hollywood stories of look at him now.
It's so interesting. We were talking about Mission Impossible before. We're going to see that tomorrow. Tom Cruise is now back on the up because there was a point in time there in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Even still, when I tell people like, I love Tom Cruise, I'll see every movie that he puts out. Like, oh, he's really weird. I'm like, he's an incredible actor.
He's right. Who
He's
cares?
an incredible
I'm
actor.
not going over his house for Thanksgiving. Yeah. Going to watch him in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, but he did a thing that was smart. He was starting because I think, and we were talking about this off air, I think a lot of times what people do now is they put their own political beliefs, politics, studios do this, actors do this, and they put their own thing into and they force it on you and they push it into your face and the audience goes, whoa, fuck off. No, thank you. I just want to watch your movies.
If you're splitting your audience like that with politics, it's pretty much 50-50.
Yeah.
So you're telling 50% of your audience, I don't care about you.
I think there's a lot of times that there's a balance of it. There's a balance to do the right thing and to put the right people in movies and to have the right. And there's other times when you do things where it's just like, well, I'm doing it because this could benefit us and we could monetize off of this. Yeah. And the intent isn't true, right? Yeah. And there's other times where you're just like, well, I want to make my statement no matter what the cost is, and it's like, well, you're going to pay for it, right? Tom Cruise was starting to see that. Tom Cruise, when he was doing all the Scientology stuff, and he was telling Brooke Shields not to do this, and he was jumping on couches.
Matt Lauer interview.
Right. And finally, they're like, someone said, chill the fuck out. Because he still probably feels the same, if not more so now.
Yeah.
But he's not he's a smart businessman where he knows, okay, I'm going to hurt my business if I keep doing this.
Yes.
And I think that's what he did. That was smart.
And Top Gun Maverick was so brilliant. So good. Yeah. And I love the fact that there's always talk in the movie of we're going to get the enemy. We're going to get the enemy.
Right.
And they fly out of San Diego to a place with mountains and snow. And you're like, it might be Russia. I don't know. It could be.
Yeah.
But they don't ever say, like, we are fighting against this country. You don't ever see flags. No. It's just, we are fighting the enemy. It was brilliant how they did that.
And that's why I'm so curious to see how Mission Impossible plays out. Because, like, I went to New York and I was with Ellis, and he was watching Mission Impossible. He watched 2, then leading into 3. And I just done a rewatch with my wife, over the pandemic, watch it. So the second one is not a good movie. It just is not. And you really forget. People like to give J.J. Abrams shit, for whether it's The Rise of Skywalker and other things. And
lens flares.
Whatever. They give him shit all the time. But what they don't give him credit for is he saved Mission Impossible. He saved it. Because if that movie would have been shit, the third one, after the second one, that franchise is dead.
That's such a great point.
Yeah, it's dead. Yeah. Like, you watch that movie, it revitalizes the whole thing. Now, I don't think it's the best one out of them, but it's the one that goes, no, this can be something.
Yeah.
Because when that movie comes out, like, I don't know if this is going to be any good. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman is fantastic in it. It's got a good story. It sets up future storylines for like 4 and 5, and then it just keeps getting better and better and better. The second one is just a John Woo movie and like over stylized and like hair flips and slow motion shots. And
what's interesting about that is Tom Cruise had never done a sequel up to that point.
Is that true?
He's only ever reprised 2 characters ever. Mission Impossible and now Top Gun Maverick. That's it.
Wow.
So it's so interesting that in the 90s, he didn't need to do a sequel or a franchise. Like, especially with the run he was on with Jerry Maguire and Vanilla Sky and Magnolia, like he was on this incredible, like, I'm going to win an Oscar run.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he needed to do more Mission Impossibles, but fast forward now 20 plus years later, it's one of the best things he's ever done.
It's so good. I love that movie so much. The Top Gun Maverick is just so, everything that the way that he's been playing both Mission Impossible and the way he did with Top Gun. I hope that they stop with Top Gun Maverick, though. I hope they don't make a third one.
I agree, because you can't top it.
You really can't. All right, before we're going to continue on with Chris in just a second, as we mentioned at the top of the show, how important the sponsors are, and we always have sponsors on here that we think that you guys are going to respond to, and that couldn't be more of the case with BetterHelp, Athletic Greens, and RUMPL. All 3 of them are just so amazing. I love them. I'll tell you a little bit about them right now. Our next partner is AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. I love it. And I gave it a try, honestly, because Brett Sheridan told me to. And I'm glad that he did, because it's so good. I love it. It tastes good, too. And I'm not a big vitamin person. I know that. You know that at this point. But to take them all in one shot, put it in a water bottle, shake it up, that's it. I drink AG1 before my coffee. And I take it. It gives me a little boost of energy. And then I'm ready to go. and it makes me feel unstoppable. I am ready for the day. I love it. It's really great because I'm telling you, it was very hard for me. Everyone's like, you got to take this vitamin, you got to take that, you got to do supplements. No, thank you. Give me one. Everything. One shot, done. And it tastes good. Might look green, hence AG1. Tastes yummy. I'm always looking for life upgrades, which is why I've come to love and trust AG1. That's why so many of you trust AG1. That's why I get notes all the time. You guys are trying it. Just did it. Love it. Re-upped, doing it again. I keep getting it over and over and over, and that's why they've been so associated with this show. It's delivered to you every month. It's been very easy, super easy to make it a daily habit for me. And get those travel packs. I'm going to be going on the road soon, and I'll be taking that with me. If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. You have to go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. That's drinkag1.com/bigthing. I told you, RUMPL's the best. I keep getting DMs and I keep getting people who have been letting me know that they've gotten RUMPL because of this show, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad we're spreading the word. I really am. RUMPL's great, and they're on a mission to introduce the world to better blankets, and they're doing it. Durable, sustainable, and they're built to last. They recycle over 5 million plastic water bottles a year. They're B Corp certified, climate neutral, and they donate 1% of all their sales to environmental causes. I love RUMPL, and I've told you guys many times over, whether you're going to be at a picnic or you're going to go camping or you're just going to snuggle on a couch, they have all types of blankets. It's amazing. They have the original puffy blanket, which is their #1 bestseller. They have over 1 million sold. They have 135 unique designs, and there's a blanket for everyone. People are always looking for some new blankets, and sometimes when you buy blankets, they don't last very long. They're not durable. These things last, and they last for a while. They're amazing. They're not just for the outdoors, as I mentioned. Really good for just snuggling up and watching a movie. I do it all the time. For listeners, go to rumpl.com/thebigthing and use that code, thebigthing, at checkout. Get 10% off your first order. rumpl.com/thebigthing, code thebigthing. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. I'm such a fan of BetterHelp. They've helped out people in my life. I am really excited to be working with them again. I was hoping that they would come back, and I'm glad that you guys have been using them as well. That's why they're back. And I'm so glad that we were introduced to them, because if you didn't know, it's really important for you to emphasize on yourself from time to time. It really is. Sometimes we're always thinking about other people. You don't think about yourself enough, and you have to, because sometimes you feel stretched thin. Sometimes there's a lot going on. You have no one to talk to. And I'm glad that BetterHelp allows you to do that. It's entirely online. It's convenient. It's flexible. It's suited to your schedule. So if you are thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. You just fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and then switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. So find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/bigthing today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, guys, as I mentioned at the top with Chris, please take a look at one of those sponsors, right? If you went, I skipped through and now I want to see them talk about the next topic, go back and look at one of those things and see if there's something right there for you, because it will help the show out tremendously. It will help you out tremendously, depending on what it is. So, like, BetterHelp has been fantastic because and she's talked about it openly, so I'm not saying anything out of turn. Roxy used BetterHelp, was looking for someone to talk to. She loves it. It's been so helpful to her. And my daughter, who's 11, was wanted someone to talk to, and I was look to see if they would talk to minors and stuff too, and they did. And you gotta obviously get permission for me and her mother, but she just has someone to talk to. The guy's super kind and nice, and has been talking to her through certain things.
BetterHelp was a sponsor on my show.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I'm not going to use this unless I've actually used it. I'm not going to promote it unless I've used it. It was so helpful.
Yeah.
It's so helpful to just talk about stuff to a neutral audience who's going to see it through a completely different, unbiased lens. Yeah. That was very interesting.
It's true.
I just wanted to I want to optimize everything. I want to optimize health and sleep and fitness. I want to optimize that.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I said to myself I was going to do this. So one of the things that I am terrible at, because I put myself through the ringer, last week, my wife and my kids went out of town. And so what I did was, some people go, oh, so you're on vacation basically the whole week. I'm like, mentally, maybe, because I'm not waking up at 6 a.m. with a 5-year-old to go to do things before I start my day. I'm just starting my day. I walk the dog, and I'm back in the office at 7:30 in the morning as opposed to 9.
Right.
And then I take a break. And then I went to a friend's party and then came back. I watched Commando Twins. I watched a whole bunch of shit that I wanted to watch for a while. But
that sounds like vacation.
that part was.
Yeah.
But right after I finished the movie, I was back in the office as opposed to shutting it down at 6 o'clock, hanging out with helping out with the wife and the kids and all stuff. Then I was working until midnight every night, like editing. And my wife says to me last night, what I did at one point is I was working out a lot with the VR headset. Like I had there's a program that I was using that helped me out. And I lost a bunch of weight on it, and I was in shape. And I was watching your interview. Who was the wrestler that you were talking about? Just how more people should be. The guy that was hanging out with Billy Gunn a lot of the time.
Oh, Mike O'Hearn.
Yes,
legendary bodybuilder.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And I'm going, like, it's one of the things I was like, I got to bring this up to Van Vliet. I want to do a challenge in the same way that, like, whether it was the Howard Stern show or a lot of other shows had done before. I want to try to do a challenge to myself that the audience pays attention to. That I was going through this fucking picture that was deleting all my pictures, like, to make space. And there was this app that I did one time of, like, what I would be like if I actually got myself in shape. And I was like, there's no way I could ever get myself into that kind of shape.
Of course you could.
And I thought of your interview, and I literally thought of you saying, of course you could. But, like, it's a matter of, I was like, okay, what if I did some kind of challenge with you on both our channels to where I could get myself in shape to where I actually tried to do it?
Well, it's not trying to do it. It's like you just have to make the commitment to actually doing it. That's the thing.
How with 2 kids and what I'm trying to do with all this? Where do I find the fucking time?
Where do you find the time to do everything that you're doing here? It's about
but don't I sacrifice that if I'm picking up heavy things for fun?
Well, Kristian, the well man has 1,000 problems, and the sick man has 1. Health is health is wealth.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
I think that if you know the quote, if you don't make time for health now, you're gonna have to make time for disease later.
You're 100% right. My father-in-law, who was very much into bodybuilding, eats very healthy. He's 80 years old. You think he was 55. Takes care of himself. But this guy is such a beast. He's had open hip surgery, and dude, no medicine.
That's incredible.
No medicine.
Look, instead of watching Commando, you could go look like Arnold.
Right.
Like, this is the thing. Like, everyone who's like, oh, I don't have time for this, has watched every episode of The Mandalorian.
I've said that. Look,
okay,
you're right, because I taught a class in YouTube where people, and I basically say exactly what you just said, and they were like, well, I don't have time to work on my channel. I was like, well, if you have time to do this, you have time to do that. And I guess there's no difference but I guess it's like, look, there's a gym not 5 minutes away from where it's actually where I see the movies. It's just a matter of, again, A, I think planning it out, and B, it's also, I always feel, because it's like anything else, you got to have the right regimen. You have to know what you're doing, the routine.
You need to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And I think that if you are having trouble like finding the time to do it, get a trainer, and then you're going to be, your wallet's going to be working against you too.
Right.
Because if you don't show up at 7 a.m. for your workout, there goes your money.
Right.
So you might as well make that work for you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is finding the right trainer, finding the right.
You're
person.
making a lot of excuses here.
I am.
Well,
No
I
doubt.
got to find the time. I got to find the right trainer.
I'm not going to tell you that
any trainer is better than no trainer right now.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but it's just like it's. But I'm not one of these people that's going to go like, oh, I'm like, no, I don't make excuses. It's just, but it's also because I do know I have so much shit that I'm working on, and everything you said was right. Everything you said was right, but I just know that I'm going to be so mad at myself. I'm like, shit. I know I feel good right now. I know that I feel like I had a good workout, and I'm sore, and I feel good at it. But now I'm 2 hours behind with all the fucking emails I got to send.
Arnold Schwarzenegger has a great quote.
What is it?
It's fantastic.
Come on.
You get results or excuses. You can't have both.
Hey, Chris Van Vliet is correct. I'll tell you why. He says, Whiskey and Lulu are going to be here. I pick up Whiskey on one hand. I pick up Lulu on the other one. And I'd say, hey, I'm going to watch some of the Chris Van Vliet clips. And Christian Harloff, he said, and they're eating the cookies. And he has milk, and milk, as I told you, is for babies. So go ahead. Do you make your excuses? And Chris Van Vliet has the little baby. He's cut like a brick shit house. And you have a belly like a donut.
Who knew we'd have this many impressions on the show today?
It'll happen more.
But this is why I did the thing of like, I want to get into the best shape of my life by
Yeah.
my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it for two reasons. One, selfishly, I wanted to like push myself,
Sure.
see what kind of shape could I get in by my 40th birthday. And number two, I wanted to show people like 40's not the end of your life. Like just because your age begins with a 4 or a 5 or a 6 or a 7, whatever, doesn't mean you're now old. And I wanted to show people what was possible. Although it was very interesting seeing how many people in the comments were accusing me of being on steroids, TRT, peptides. It's like, no, it's just really hard work that's paying off.
And next thing you know, you're going to tell me that you actually interviewed Michael Myers.
I can't believe that
so
one.
stupid. People are ridiculous. So people who don't know what we're talking about, Chris he did an interview with Mike Myers all over like Zoom or something, and he was asking questions, and people said it was a nice fake interview.
Like that was the top comment. It's like, why did this guy pretend to interview Mike Myers?
It's amazing how much time people have on their hands.
It's not enough time to Google to see if the interview's real.
100%. Yeah. But go back to the workouts and stuff too. How many days are you in there 7 days a week?
5 days of lifting weights.
Okay.
6 days of cardio.
Right.
But I have a treadmill in the garage now.
Okay.
So first thing I do is I wake up, I drink a quarter gallon of water with some lemon and some salt in there,
Yeah.
just because you're so dehydrated when you sleep. So you want to just be able to super hydrate the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. Then I walk on the treadmill for 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm answering emails. I'm putting out my first TikTok or whatever of the day. And then I go to the gym later on in the day.
Yeah.
So it's weights 5 days a week, cardio 6 days a week, 1 full day of rest. And I know everybody's going, that's way too much. I can't believe I'm getting tired just listening to that. Well, look.
I think that what you, but I'm not going to tell you that I've never, like, there was one point in my life, which is I have never been able to get back there. And it was 2002. I was in the gym 7 days a week, and it was I saw this video as we did a short film, and I was in the best shape of my life. I've never been in that shape to this day. And it was the thing, though, that what you're saying, though, and when I started, it was exhausting, right? And it was hard. But after a while, it just becomes repetition. It becomes a thing.
And all it comes down to, it's the same as you making the content here. You just have to start being intentional about it.
Right.
You're not going to make content by accident. You're not going to get into shape by accident.
Right.
You have to like carve it out and be intentional about it. And it's fascinating how many people just think like, oh, well, I'll just park the car further away when I go to Walmart so I get some extra steps in.
Right.
That's not how this works.
Right. Yeah, no, I walk the dog for an extra 10 minutes. It's not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess.
That's what I said to my wife the other day when I was laughing. I mean, clearly knowing that I was just bullshitting, but she's like, she asked me if I was doing the cardio and the thing. I was like, I walked the dog for an extra 10 minutes. She goes, yeah, that was it. So, I mean, you guys are saying the same thing. All right, so good. I feel just as bad about myself as I did before.
Great, that was the intention.
That was the intention.
Yeah.
But before we move on to or say goodbye, rather, I did want to talk to you, as we said. Let's talk a little about The Flash, because you haven't seen the movie yet, right?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
So I had this whole conversation with. I mean, it seems to be like a thing within our circle for sure, and whether it's the people who watch our shows, whether it's the people who are just in our industry, there's a very different reason why people, A, didn't see this movie, B, think people didn't see this movie, than what I think is the reality of what a lot of average movie-going people, why they didn't see the movie. Because I was, and it's also generational as well, because I was very curious about it when I was in New York, and I asked, there was a bunch of people who came to see us, and I asked the audience, how many people saw The Flash? And there was a spatter of people. Some people saw it, but mostly I'd say 75% of the audience didn't. And I said, how many people in this audience, round of applause, didn't see it because of Ezra Miller?
Yeah, no
2
one
people.
cares. Yeah.
2 people clapped. And I said, how many people just didn't give a shit about superheroes at this point? Most people clapped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also, and then I said, how many people and this was a conversation I had afterwards about DC, more people that were coming out. I said, what about the DC stuff? And the DC stuff, actually, they didn't know where it was, how it connected, and not necessarily the whole James Gunn of it all. They just didn't, it's just not as clear cut as everything else. And I talked to my uncle, didn't know who Ezra Miller was. My friend James, close friend, didn't know who Ezra Miller was. My cousin, who's 24 years old, did, because he pays attention to TikTok and Twitter and all that stuff too, but it wasn't the reason why. It was more so his reasoning was because of James, because I don't know where the DC connects. Where is any of this stuff? So I didn't care. And it was interesting to listen to all of that because it was so different. People just didn't care.
And I think that we're a little superheroed out right now.
Yeah.
I also think that, like, we see a lot of movies, obviously, because we work in this industry. I think your average family or your average person that lives in the country, in America, doesn't see a ton of movies unless it's like something like, I need to go to the theater
It's
to
expensive.
see this. Which is amazing that box office numbers continue to go up.
Well, look at it like so. What we've been having on the conversation on this show is that I do think it's less of a superhero fatigue, as more of it's a superhero mediocrity fatigue. Right? You look at because Across the Spider-Verse did pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Though, and somebody arguing that Guardians didn't do that good. It did $800 million. Didn't make $1 billion. Everybody thinks that it needs to make $1 billion. Now there's this weird thing that comes along. Someone said the other day, like Thor, Love and Thunder, which is less than mediocre, but
Yes.
it's still made about $800 million. So someone's like, that movie bombed. What the fuck are you talking about?
I wish we were to, like, could we stop talking about box office numbers? Like,
Yeah.
I think the real metric that needs to be judged, and it will never be this, is how many people saw the movie. Could you imagine going to Dodger Stadium tonight and them going, man, we've got a record-setting crowd, $1.3 million in ticket sales. You
Right.
go, yeah, but how many people are here?
Right.
And it doesn't make sense that in movies, I get why they do it.
Yeah.
It's a good number to look at to go, yes, this movie made X amount of dollars. But how many people bought
Actually saw
tickets?
it,
Like,
right, yeah, that's
how
a good
is that not like the secondary measurement? Like,
Right.
it made $800 million.
Right.
And
If you can track the money, let's track the numbers of people who saw it. Right.
and of course they
Right.
know that number.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's true. Because it would sound pretty sexy, too.
Like how Netflix only tells you their numbers when the movie does really, really, really
Right,
well.
right.
But you're like, well, okay, thank you for the numbers of that movie. Could you tell me the numbers of these other movies? No, we keep those.
No, we're okay.
yeah, we're not
Under the
telling
vest.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true, and it's interesting how that kind of plays. But I think that it is the mediocre kind of in general. It's just and streaming, and like I was watching Extraction 2 last night.
How good is Extraction 2?
So far, I started watching with my wife last night. So far, it's pretty damn good.
And this is an interesting part of the
Yeah.
conversation. I started watching it. Like when you go to the movie theater to
Right.
watch something, you're carving out 2.5, 3 hours
Right.
of your time.
Right.
It's amazing how passively we watch things on Netflix,
Yeah.
Hulu, Max.
Well, last night I was
Paramount
watching.
Plus.
We started because it's funny. This is what I do at my house, Chris. Like, my wife she called me the other day when she was out of town, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I was gonna starting Commando," and she's like, "I haven't seen that movie in forever." She's like, "I'll watch that with you. Wait for me." And in my head, I'm going, "There's no fucking way she's gonna watch it." Like, even if she does, I'm gonna watch 10 minutes of it. And she's like, "I changed my mind." She's gonna. So I watched it without her, and then last night we started watching Commando again, right? And then. Sure as shit. In 15 minutes, she's like, let's watch something else. And I was like, yeah,
nailed it.
And I knew it right away.
Yeah.
So, she's like, let's watch Extraction 2. And I've been having people on this channel tell me I need to watch it. So I started watching. I was like, I remember, because I only remember the end of Extraction 1. And so how the hell is it going to, and they explain what happens at the end of 1. But I don't remember really much about the first one at all. I remember liking it, but this one's really good so far.
Have you got to the 21-minute one-shot action sequence?
Yes. I mean, it was amazing.
I saw it
was
at the New
amazing.
York premiere,
Yeah.
and the crowd just applauded after that scene was done. I'm like, it's so
It
good.
was it's really good. It's really,
Yeah.
but my point of all of that is that that's a movie that in 1995 you wouldn't even imagine that wouldn't be in the theater.
Of
You know? So
course.
of course,
Well,
it would be.
but there wouldn't be another option. That would definitely not be a straight to DVD or straight to VHS at the time.
Right. It would. That's a movie that is hand in hand, like with the new Hemsworth movies coming out, which you
Yeah.
don't hear anymore. You don't hear about.
Yeah.
You don't-
It's changed so much. Like if we were to walk down your street here and knock on people's doors and actually have them answer their door.
Right.
And you were to say to them, how many movies have you been to the movie theater to see
Right.
in the last 12 months? I would bet the answer is 0 or 1.
I think you're right. It's because it's a different. This is why I also think that budgets need to come down and people also be very. They need to choose when they put something out in the theater as opposed to streaming, because I meant to I almost want to like do like a thing with you when you're going to do your interviews to say like, hey, by the way, so like you see over there,
Yeah.
you interviewed Sebastian and De Niro.
Yeah.
So Sebastian and I did the road together, and I came up with the story
he looks
together.
unrecognizable in
Yeah,
that.
that was funny. We were
It's Wednesday, April 2nd, but what year is that?
2003. Yeah.
Wow. Brett Ernst, he hasn't aged.
Yeah,
he looks
Ernst is the
identical.
same. So, but yeah, those were my guides at the comedy store. But then Bert Kreischer, I was at Potbelly's the night he did stand up for the first time, and I gave him advice, and he talks about it on his podcast all the time. But I was like, shit, I was like, because I had done his podcast, and he's supposed to do this pretty soon, but like I thought about both their movies, and like I just told you, I'm friends with both those guys. I think I understand why they took a shot at putting movies in the theater, but those movies are going to be a hard sell in the theater. Comedies right now. What's the last comedy? Sandra Bullock's movie with Channing Tatum did pretty good at the comedy. It was more like an action comedy. It's a different time now.
Yeah, and those are very like Netflixable. Whether it's on Netflix or not, those are very Netflixable because you go to the home screen, you see Sebastian's face or Bert's face. You go, oh, that's my dude. I didn't know he was in a movie.
That's right.
Of course I'm watching this.
Right, exactly. And it's like, it's not the one that you go. People don't go to the theater for those types of movies anymore the way that they did even in like 2010 when The Hangover was on, right? Like even something like The Hangover comes out today. That's a harder sell to get people to the theater than it was in 2010.
And again, it's a hard sell to get people to go into the theaters, but somehow the box office numbers keep going up. Like, where are they coming from?
Well, because the thing is, when you hit gold, you hit gold now in that $1 billion range that you never look at Mario, right?
Yeah.
$1 billion was not easy to do back in the day. I mean, at all. And now
it was basically like Avatar,
right?
And The Dark Knight.
It was harder to do. And now there's at least one or two that does it a year,
Yeah.
right? And it's like you probably have Across the Spider-Verse isn't going to do it. I think the new one, I think the third one will do it next year because I think Across the Spider-Verse will probably hit around like 700 total.
But it is interesting that people go to see movies when it's an experience.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited to see Mission Impossible in theaters with you tomorrow.
That could hit $1 billion.
It could.
That could.
It's going to be very interesting, and I'm sure you've already talked about it. But then a week and a half later, Oppenheimer is going to take a lot of those IMAX screens, which is going to take a lot of the bottom line away from Mission Impossible.
It's true, but I mean, and what an interesting battle between Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Yeah.
Because as Ellis was doing something for Fandango.
That's interesting, yeah.
Barbie is tracking way higher than Oppenheimer.
Of course.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's PG-13. It's at a bigger IP. Bigger movie stars.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense why it is, but I think that movie's going to be huge. And then Dune is the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, Dune's going to be great. I can't wait for Oppenheimer, and I love the idea that like people are going to see movies based on who the director is.
Right.
Like, gone are the days of like, oh, I'm going to go see the new Brad Pitt movie or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go see the new Christopher Nolan film. I'm going to see the new
Tarantino.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
Tarantino.
Yeah, I think there's like
Spielberg,
Scorsese. I think there's like 5 people. Jordan Peele.
Oh definitely.
I think there's like maybe 5 or 6 directors that can do that right now. Greta Gerwig has a shot if Barbie plays, but like there's like 5 or 6 directors that can do it. But I think what it is now, it's like its IP is one of the main things that gets people in there for sure, and it's a matter of, I think that now, what I think is a good trend that it's happening, to be honest, because I think it was more so IP over the last couple of years, right? And no matter what it was. But now I do think that are people saying it's good? It's like the quality of it is, and even then, because I liked The Flash. I thought The Flash was a good movie.
Yeah. It's funny how an opening weekend, like a general consensus comes out about something very quickly too.
Yeah.
Even before all the Rotten Tomato numbers are out, it's just like there's a general consensus of like, this movie's good or this movie's not good.
I know.
And that drives the narrative into that weekend. And then whatever the numbers are that weekend, it really sucks about Hollywood.
It's true.
You have one weekend.
Yeah.
And there's so many factors playing into this, including like what else is opening that weekend? What was the weather like? Like all these things factor into it.
Everything. And
if your movie doesn't perform well on the first weekend,
well, but that's it.
And Dak Shepard talks about that all the time.
It's true, and that's what is so different again with streaming, right? Like I'm a big Andor fan, and I loved Andor. And when that show came out, I saw people commenting like, "It didn't do that well." I'm like, it doesn't work like that in movies, guy. I mean, for the way the movies do, it works like in movies, like you just said. You got weekend 1, and then you might like look at like The Flash. The week 2 was terrible, but I think Elemental had a better week 2. It's rare. But it can happen. But then eventually it'll start to kind of track off. In streaming, because you already pay for the service, people could start watching Andor tomorrow. The show's been out almost 7-8 months. And
so
the
much of streaming is it on the homepage?
Right. That's right.
It's like Netflix is brilliant about that, right? Like Netflix is so good about telling you this is coming up next week. And then when it is out, like it's flashed all on your
Right,
screen and you
right.
can't miss it.
Yeah, but the only problem with Netflix is, like you said, they have so much shit. It's hard to get everything up on that.
I saw some meme that the Netflix home screen is the most watched thing on Netflix.
Right.
Because think about it. You know, you sit
Yeah.
there with your girlfriend, your wife, your boyfriend, husband, whatever, kids, and you're like, just doing this the whole time. Oh, does this look good? I don't know. We'll keep that as an option,
Right.
but we'll keep looking
Right.
here
Yeah, you could spend a half an hour, dude.
every time.
I was in the dentist chair watching all of the different like screens coming up, and I was like, oh, I didn't know what that is. What's that cloning show? That's interesting.
Yeah, and you're like, but look at this docuseries.
Right.
That looks cool. Oh, there's
Right.
4 of them? Oh, I don't know if I have time to watch 4.
I hate their trailers, though. I hate their trailers.
Really?
They're not trailers. They're just random scenes from the movie.
Oh, there are a bunch of trailers on there.
Trailers on YouTube, and then if you go and you like actually look for the trailer, sure, and it's like a trailer option. But like when you scroll over it and they just start playing something,
Oh, I turn my autoplay off.
it's
much.
it's so stupid. It's like these random scenes, like, hey, you know, seen Jerry lately? Yeah, Jerry's gonna be down at the diner. All right, we'll go meet him. Neither Jerry or the diner's in the movie for more than 3 seconds, and it's like why?
It's crazy that we're complaining about a service that's $9.99 a month when
No, it's like 15, dude.
I mean
Netflix?
the $7.99 is I think the entry level one with ads.
Really?
I think so.
Maybe they must have
I mean, we can
changed
look
it.
this up.
And you might be right.
But I think it's $7.99. But
We don't look up things on this show.
But we have all the world's information. I'm going to look this up right now. But it's amazing that it used to be like you went to Blockbuster
Oh yeah.
and you spent $5.99 to watch something for one night.
I know it's true. That I still, every time someone brings up Blockbuster, I tell the
gonna look it
day
up.
that I lost my innocence, and I don't talk about being, and I lost being naive anymore. I had rented Sister Act 2 with my ex-girlfriend.
Sister Act
Yeah.
2.
And she lived like right here, and the Blockbuster was like right here. And so
Okay.
we walked, and I took a cab back to get to my house. And I was like, oh, hey, can you do me a favor to the cab driver? Can you just pull over to the Blockbuster? I need to drop this off at the Blockbuster. He's like, look, because I forgot to loop back around. He's like, I'll just drop you off, and I'll loop back around and drop it off for you. I'm like, great, it's amazing. Fucking asshole stole it. Right, stole it. I had to, I think it was like $60, $70. I don't know.
What?
I don't know if I actually had to pay it or whatever it was, but it was like I might have, or somebody, maybe my ex-girlfriend's dad had to pay. Something happened. But I was like, that was the day I was like, I'm not going to trust people anymore, because I was like a 16-year-old kid. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll trust you, asshole.
This says that it ranges in price from $6.99 to
Wow.
$19.99
Okay.
with ads, I guess.
With ads,
yeah. The
yeah.
basic starts at $6.99.
Okay.
Wow.
They changed it up. Yeah, I mean, once they changed the
Remember when it was like the late fees were like $2 a day or something?
Yeah.
And like you're right, it could be like $60. And then I think they came out in their later years. I'm probably going to get corrected on this, but like they came out where like your late fees would never surpass the cost of actually buying the DVD.
I remember,
And
yeah.
people went, this is great. I'll just keep this now.
Yeah.
I kind of always wanted to watch Sister Act 2 again.
Son of a bitch. But you know what's funny with that? Isn't that crazy how that works? Like just like some of the butterfly effect, or just like one decision, one phone call. You know, Blockbuster was in position to buy Netflix.
Yeah. For like 70 million or
Something,
like-
and they said, nah, no one's gonna
Yeah.
do. Hubris.
To be fair, that was when it was mail away DVDs.
It was, but it's still, whoever was involved in the company would have gotten bought over,
Yeah.
and who had made the decision to let's start doing this. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, and then they went the way of the dinosaur.
My friend the other day said, I prefer that experience. Like I would much rather go to Blockbuster to rent a movie than to look at it on Netflix.
I think
are
it's
you insane?
I think it's the
It's
nostalgia.
nostalgia
of it all.
for sure.
Yeah,
I
it's
said, so you would prefer to get into your car, park your car, walk into
Yeah.
Blockbuster, walk around and find some like
and it might not be available.
I'm already halfway through my movie. He's like,
Right.
yeah, but dude, you would stand there at the counter and like the movie that you wanted, that they were out of, you stood there and you watched someone come in with it and you're like, oh my gosh, there it is. Could I get that movie? Like, yeah, no, I get that. It's exciting.
right.
But now for $6.99 a month, $7.99 a month, I
It's
can watch like 3,000
Right.
titles.
I remember that, like, thinking back in the day, I was like, one day you're just gonna be able to, like, whatever movie you want, whatever comes into your head, you can just type it in and it'll come out. I'm like, I'm wondering when that's gonna happen. And now it's just like, yeah, you can find anything. Anything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And but that's also going back to the original point of that conversation. That's why the theater experience has dwindled. There was conversation during the pandemic that it was going to go away forever. It'll never go away forever. It'll never. But
It's still the number one date,
Yeah.
to take someone to the movies.
Yeah.
So I get that that'll never go away.
Budgets need to change, though, man. Budgets need to change. $200 million every single time. It's just, it's
But how
too
are you
much.
going to make a superhero movie when it's not $200 million?
You can make it. Look, you can do, because that's.
All the CGI is so expensive.
No, but that's the whole point. I think that's the reason why, right? You look at, so what's your favorite Terminator movie?
Right, probably Terminator 2, right?
See, one's my favorite.
Okay.
And the reason why one is my favorite is because it's the story, the low, kind of almost like low budget, excuse me, horror film aspect of it. And it's scaled down. And that's another reason why I think Prey was so successful. It's a scaled down film. And granted, it was a streaming movie, but I think you can scale movies down and not just rely on the CGI, because we just think that the audience needs to, like, look at Logan, right? Like, Logan is a scaled, that movie costs like $100 million, right? It's a scaled down film that you can still focus on the character and the emotion and all that.
But then you need to have an incredible script.
That's right.
And unfortunately, that doesn't exist a lot
I know.
right now.
It's because people get, because of what you just said, and the reason like that, it's a lot of, that's what studios think. It's like, well, look, we might not have the best script, but we got this big over-the-top action scene and dump some money into it, and we'll make it look real shiny. And that's where you start to make $250 million movies.
And I still think there's this misconception, like, you know, from the mid-2000s, when something went straight to DVD, we went, ooh,
Right.
straight to DVD. Like, it must suck.
Yeah.
So when something skips theaters to go straight to Netflix, Hulu, wherever streaming, I think people still have this idea of like, ooh.
100%. Extraction 2 last night. I was watching it last night. And I had to go away from that thought, because I said, oh, it's Chris Hemsworth in it. So it's still, and it's the Russos. So I'm like, and it comes from a first movie, but that's, they made it directly for this. It's just, it's not like that anymore, because my mind did go there. Because I worked at Silver Pictures, where they had a division that they made like direct to DVD, like just shit bombs, right? Like that just, they just made overseas, and it was just like, they knew they were making shit, and they made them for like $2 million, and they made hand over fist from the amount of money that they would make from these things. But it's just, it's direct to DVD. I don't want to say the executive's name, but we called it a blank special. Whatever the guy's name was, because you knew it was just going to be a total shit piece, but they were going to make a lot of money out of it, and the amount of money that they were going to take home from themselves because of it. But no, you're right. It's
perception.
It's perception.
I feel so bad saying a movie's not good, because I know, and you know as well, how much time and effort goes into every different aspect of that movie.
Yeah.
And for it to play out in 90 minutes or 2 hours on a screen, and it to not deliver what you were expecting it to deliver. I hate when people go on YouTube or a podcast or TV and just like trash a movie, because I'm like, but hundreds of people worked so hard on it. And I get that it's not good, but I still respect the work that they put into it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I had made the decision I don't know if I'll do this forever, but I decided to do it last year. For a long time, like when Ellis and I were doing Schmoes, we used to do like the top 10 worst of the year, but I stopped doing it last year. Like last year, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that this year. I was like, I do say if I think, like I just said, like those movies that were made during they were shit pieces. I don't care how many people worked on them. People had jobs, so they were working on shit pieces. But there are times that people put their heart and their soul into movies, and it just doesn't come out maybe good to a lot of people.
Yeah.
To them, they might love it still. There's some movies that people put out, think, oh man, I thought people were going to love this, and it's just like, I remember there was the one that was it somewhere. What was the one Sofia Coppola did? I can't remember, and it was it was Steven Dorff. It was in it.
We have all the world's information.
I'm not doing it, and I'm not doing it. And people, that's not why people watch my show. It's like
they want to see you stumble through this.
You're going through. I tell people this, that if you're coming to my show for research and for me to pause it, like I literally am pre-taping. I could pause it and make it seem like I knew it.
This is true.
Like right away. I'm going to guess and say that the movie was called Somewhere, and if I'm right, that's what I use. I use this. Wow. And if it was from somewhere, then I found it somewhere in my head. But there's this opening scene where the fucking car is just going around in a loop, and I'm like, let's go! But it's Sofia Coppola, right? I'm just like, come on! I'm like, and I hated the movie because of that. I don't even tell you the rest of the movie. It's just because of that, and like these long, kind of pretentious shots. But to her, she loved it, loved what she was doing. But I was just like, come on.
It's also so interesting that when you see a movie, it depends on the mindset that you're in, depends on the mood that you're in, what's going on in your life, as to whether you're going to love this movie or not.
Right.
I also think that it's difficult to see a movie and like appreciate the full scope of that movie like in the moment.
Right.
It takes a few years, maybe even a decade to go, you know what? the town really holds up. Or like it's hard to look at something from the last 10 years and go, that is an all-timer.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely some in there.
Sure.
We could talk about this for the next few hours, but it's hard in the moment to leave the theater when you see Us and go, man, I really like that was so good and so profound. It's hard to go, am I still going to be talking about this movie 10, 20 years from now?
It's true. There's one movie that I do remember saying, I'm going to love this movie for the rest of two that I can remember, and that's Inception and Wolf of Wall Street.
Ooh. I remember leaving Wolf of Wall Street, and I saw it at a press screening, and there was like 3 of us in the theater. And I remember my rep going, what'd you think? And I'm like, it's also so hard, right? Like the credits are rolling, and they're like, what'd you think? And you're like, oh, there's so much to like digest. That's a movie that it took me like 2 or 3 times to go, oh, yeah. DiCaprio should have won the Oscar for that film.
Yeah, he should have.
Like, I feel like he was great in The Revenant.
But
Don't get me wrong.
they gave it to him for past work. Yeah, for sure. I love The Wolf of Wall Street. I loved it when I saw it the first time. I loved it just because Jonah Hill I've always liked. To this day, I think he does the most accurate New York accent out of any performance that I've seen.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is like, Leo's is okay. But but Jonah Hill's is like dead on.
When I saw him in Moneyball, I went,
oh, yeah,
he is an actor.
Yeah, he was good. He was really good in
He
that.
got nominated for an Oscar for
Yeah,
that
he
film.
did. Yeah,
like, he is an actor.
Yeah, he was really in both. And it was like kind of like back to back. And then there was so much going on in that movie. But it was like it is really the follow up to Goodfellas. It really is. And when you look at the style and the way that it's just obviously different because of the eras that the movies are made in, both from when the story takes place and both when it was shot. But if you look at it in the way that it's kind of positioned and in the length, but in the storytelling aspect, in the voiceovers, in the just the pacing throughout different times and how they go back and forth. It's a very sister piece to Goodfellas.
It's interesting how that movie has made Jordan Belfort like a hero, like an American hero. And like going back, he's a convicted felon who took lots of people's money and never repaid them. And like now that guy's making so much money off the fact that
works because like to some
Leo
people,
played me in a movie.
It's weird. It's weird that is sometimes some people do feel that he is, because you're right, Leo played him, but if you look at it, he's shining in a very despicable light.
But now, like Jordan Belfort is making millions of dollars
you're
a
right.
year.
You're right. He certainly benefited from it. There's no doubt about it. But when people say that he was you didn't say this, but he's not painted in a good light in the movie. Now, whether or not he's looked upon as, people like, oh, that guy's a fight, like, because they use him all the time.
No one looks back at that movie and goes, oh, what a dirtbag he is. They look at the memes of like the throwing the money or like,
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, that meme's everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I've used it for sure.
So I think that's what people go back to.
Yeah, I mean that scene though, when he's driving.
Oh, that's the scene you're going to talk about.
It's the right. Not the other one. It's a family show. But that scene when he's driving, and you think that he makes it on the loose, and then they go back and he was banging into everything, and it's the comedy that is involved in that whole thing.
The scene where he crawls right after that back into the house.
Yeah,
that's the Oscar-winning scene.
That's what I mean. Like that whole
every best actor, best actress, best supporting actress. It all comes down to one scene. That should have been his scene
easily. And then even when they're on the boat, get the loads. What? Get the loads. I love that movie. Watched it not too long ago during the pandemic. But like I said, we didn't even really know exactly what we were going to talk about. We probably could talk about another 3 hours.
I feel like I need to come back on here to actually talk about a movie.
Yeah, we should. I mean, whether it's Mission Impossible or
Oppenheimer.
Or Oppenheimer might be a good one too. You're going to do that? Are you doing that junket? I'm sure you will.
There might not be a junket.
Oh, really? Oh, right, because of the strike and everything too. Yeah. How is that affecting you?
Well, they basically front-loaded everything right now. Like all the movies that are coming out in July, they just did all the junkets this weekend.
Right. So obviously Mission Impossible was in Rome. So you didn't do that one. So what did you? So for people, this is a good question for I guess people who are looking to get into interviewing and those types of things. How did you? Because I know you worked for an outlet when you were in Florida, but like
I worked for. Started in Toronto. So
In
Toronto,
Toronto.
Vancouver,
Right.
Miami, or Cleveland,
Okay.
Miami, now here.
So when you went on your own thing, did you just keep a lot of those contacts from before? Or did you have to kind of go out and reach out to new contacts to say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. These
Yeah.
are because it's all about stats, right? It's all about like, look, this is what I do on social. This is what my YouTube channels are doing. And then we've obviously had this relationship when I was working for so and so. So can I do the junket? Can I get some? Because you have both the junkets that you do,
Yep.
and then you do your studio show.
Yep.
Where's your studio show? Is that at your place?
No, it was a studio I rent in Hollywood.
Okay.
And sometimes at the Blue Wire Studios in Las Vegas.
Okay.
But it comes down to a little bit of both. So I still have all those contacts, but they still want it to air somewhere.
Yeah.
And it just airing on my YouTube channel or just airing on social media isn't quite a big enough. Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that wild? So I freelance for the CBS station in Las Vegas.
And you like, kind of license out your stuff?
Yeah, it's my old news director.
Oh, so it's
He was
fun.
just like, hey, are you still doing celebrity interviews? I'm like, yes. He's like, do you want to air them on our station? I'm like, sounds good. Let's do it.
And then that gives you the opportunity to them then give you the access.
And it's like,
stuff too,
if that's where the first run is, the studios are pumped about that. And then they get an additional however many views off the social media stuff.
It's so weird that that just shows you that the old like fat cats are still running it because they still don't get it, like the social media aspect of it all. Because you can put, I mean, it's awesome that your CBS guy lets you do that, but like you don't need to do that. Like you don't like your channel. Like if it's my movie and I have stars in it, and I'm going look at Van Vliet. Every time he puts a short out, like I don't know, Margot Robbie's in my movie.
Sure.
So let's get him Margot in his studio. He's going to probably get like 10 to 15 clips out of that. He's going to post it all over social, and we're going to get the word out.
I think this is going to start to happen eventually. Like
with
my
the new generation.
I mean, it's already starting to happen.
Yeah.
My friends that went and covered the Mission Impossible world premiere said that there was like just a whole section on the red carpet of influencers
Right.
that weren't interviewing anybody. They were just like taking video of like, we're here. And I would be willing to bet that the studio paid them to be there
Of course,
too.
yeah, I know some of them, and they absolutely were paid to be out there for sure. It's like a promotional tool for them, like that.
Yeah, like I saw Straw Hat Goofy at
He's the best.
Fast and Furious
Yeah.
at Fast 10. And I was like, well, yeah, of course, he had millions of followers on TikTok.
That's right.
It makes sense. But I would hope selfishly that Universal would go, John Cena's in our film. Chris has a big wrestling audience. Hey, Chris, would you like to just talk to John Cena for this movie? Of course I would. Yes.
But that's what I mean, though.
Didn't
is that
happen.
no?
I
Because
tried so hard too.
because there's still a lot of people,
Tried
dude.
so hard.
But there's a lot of people out there that don't get it yet. There's a lot that do in the studio system, and there's a lot that don't. I remember when we first started for Schmoes, getting into press screenings at first. You guys are what? YouTube? Like no, we only let in like print critics, and then like we got turned down a lot. Our first screening we ever got into as press was True Grit. It's the first one, and then that started to open up other ones, but it took a little bit for us to get in there. Now there's tons of YouTube people and reactors and everything that get into press screenings now, but that was not the case for us. And then it's the same thing with like politics, where politics you see certain policies that will not go through today that will go through tomorrow because the millennials and
That's a good point.
People start to get old. It shifts every single time where certain people are coming through. And it's the same thing with this like studio system. It's like, okay, there's going to be somebody who's like 21 years old now who's going to be an executive in 30, 40 years who it's going to be like, no, print, who cares about the print? Let's make sure that whatever the new app is at the time, that person is covering, and that person, because I would make sure that Margot Robbie, if it's my movie, is getting an interview with you, not a on the carpet thing, like sending her to the studio to do it because you want to get the word out there. Because like again, I had Katie Sackhoff, I had on my show because I know Katie, right? Like I would have had to gone through the Lucasfilm publicist, everything too, and they're not giving me that interview right away. They're not. I had to end. That interview did 275,000 views on YouTube alone, and then like I said, 12 to 13 million on social.
Yeah.
And that's because people shared it, they saw it, they got, and Diego Luna came in. That one I did get through, but again, got that through working with Collider and working with Perry. And Perry was able to set that up because Collider has that name.
Yeah.
But I think studios need to pay attention to other
I
other
think
things.
studios are gonna. It's starting to happen, but I think they're gonna stop looking at the outlet and start looking at the individual.
That's what I'm saying.
And they're going to go, oh, you've got especially when it comes to like superhero movies,
Yeah.
like, oh, we'll go talk to these 6 influencers where their audience just loves that stuff and eats it up.
Yeah.
I would like to think that I could be part of those conversations the next time Dave Bautista has a movie.
Right.
The Rock. They've been pretty good. Like Warner Brothers was really good. I hadn't done a Warner Brothers junket in so long.
Yeah. They're pretty
And
good
then
to me.
Black Adam was coming out. And I think combined, all my Black Adam stuff got like 20 million views.
Yes, that's
brilliant.
But it's also, and that's why I give you all the respect in the world, because you get like 3 to 5 minutes with them, and you're a long conversationalist like I am.
Yeah,
right, in the
it's
general.
so much
it's like,
better, yeah.
so much better. And it's like, but it's you take what you can get, right? And you get those clips, especially when you know that when you put The Rock on, you can get, if you have 5 minutes with them and you can make 3 or 4 shorts out of it, then you take that shot, especially with all the short form.
Yeah.
But I think that I also understand the hesitation on the studio as well, because not everybody who does social media, TikTok, YouTube, can interview. And you're like, oh, okay, just because they have millions of views doesn't mean I want The Rock talking to him for an hour. But it's like, do your research, and you can see that Chris Van Vliet you can talk to The Rock for 2 hours.
But
easily.
look at the buildup that Mr. Beast had to play rock, paper, scissors with The Rock.
yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then it ended up being like a 2-minute thing on the
Yeah.
red carpet where like they just kind of brought The Rock. Mr. Beast was in this one little area. They did it, and that hundreds of millions of views later.
right.
That was a brilliant partnership.
Yeah, it was, and so it's a strange time that we live in for sure. But I think that I agree with you. I think that more. It also goes back to the beginning of this conversation. It's the grind, right? It's like getting out that the word of saying, "Hey, look at what I'm doing right now." Like, and I'll say this, and obviously so, and it should be this. I found myself as I reached out to the studio saying, "Hey, I'm executive producing Katie Sackhoff's show, and Katie would like to interview so and so." I'm getting more responses then than I would.
Yeah.
Right, but I understand, rightfully so, because they know that A, who she is, B, she's going to get people to get more eyes on the project, the interview and everything too. And what people don't also understand is that people are going to ask this question before seeing. I'm sure you thought the same thing. Is Katie any good at interviewing? She's fucking awesome. She's so good at talking to people, and so good because she's like so, I think like just real, as we were talking about before with the like certain people when they're not being real and you can see it as not authentic. It's so real inside the conversation that like she doesn't try to pretend she's not going to run into, oh, well, Chris Van Vliet, you've been doing it forever. I'm going to come in and do what you do. It's not even close. It's like, am I any good at this? Am I doing this? And she's just talking. And I think that's why people are going to fall in love with that show.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's really good. But all right, brother. So where can they find you? What tell them, give them the goods.
For everybody watching, it's this camera
Yeah, so
right here.
that's it.
If you're watching this on YouTube, check out my YouTube channel at Chris Van Vliet, and then the Clips channel, which we talk so much about here. It's CVV Clips, and then on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, I'm just at Chris Van Vliet, and there's a lot of clips. There are a lot of clips right now.
And they're really, really good clips. So you should check. If you didn't know Chris beforehand, you should know him now. He really, him and Josh Horowitz, I think, are really two of the best in the game, and are so good at interviews.
And thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, of course,
it's just
man.
great to see you. Great to be able to hang out with you.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this, but we hung out at that Netflix party.
Oh yeah,
which
you
was
teased
great.
it, and then we didn't talk.
I know
about
we
it.
didn't. It's funny because we went to this. It was at the beginning. It was the beginning of this year, right? It was January.
Was it January?
I think it was either January or the end of the year. I can't remember. I feel like it was the beginning.
I think it was like a Christmas party, wasn't it?
Maybe. Either way, we ran into
I'm
each
gonna
other
look.
at this.
We have
Netflix.
all the world's
Yeah,
information
Yeah,
right
we
here.
had this party that we went to, this Netflix party, and my daughter at the time, and still is, was obsessed with Wednesday, the show. And so Chris and I are sitting there, we're talking. I will look over, and there's Jenna Ortega sitting there with the lead, I guess whoever played her best friend in the show as well. And I was like, oh man, my daughter's gonna lose her mind, and A, she'll be mad at me if I don't take a picture with her. So Chris was like, get in there, I'll take a picture.
Yeah,
of
she's
her. Send it to you.
standing right there.
I never posted it. I won't ever post a picture because
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
for me. It was for my daughter, and I just remember like seeing her and being it was like a Christmas present to my daughter. So I think it was Christmas.
I think it was right before
I
Christmas.
think it was.
That was wild. Also, when like you pull up to valet,
Yeah.
and my wife was like, "How like dressed up do we need to be?" I'm
Right,
like,
right.
"Not that dressed up, like fairly casual." And we pull up, and the second you got out of your car, there was paparazzi.
Yeah, there was.
Clearly not for us, right? Like, It was for Jenna, actually.
Yeah, must
But
have
she
been.
was like, "What have you got me in? What are we doing?"
Yeah, it's hilarious. It was.
She's like, "I am so underdressed. I'm so mad at you." I'm like, "It's okay.
I did so many circles.
It's
Like,
okay."
yeah, it's well. They get look. I was when I showed up. I felt the same way because I luckily enough put like a suit jacket on, but I didn't know what they didn't really give you a good
Now,
prep.
I was just wearing a sweater, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, good enough." As soon as I walked in, I saw Keegan Michael
yeah.
Key, and
Yeah.
I wanted to tell him like that one little moment where I asked him, "How would the substitute teacher say my name?"
Yes.
And he's
Yeah.
like, "Chirice, say it correctly." It has so many millions of views, and I wanted to be like, "Just thank you
Yeah.
for calling me Chirice."
It was-
but he was very busy.
I like that clip. I've seen that clip many times. Yeah. It shows. So I mean, again, I think that's what people are going to hear if you're listening to this on audio and you're going to go, "Oh, Chris Van Vliet, it sounds really familiar," and then you're going to look at these clips and go, "Fuck yeah, I've seen this guy." Like he's everywhere. You can't miss him. Follow him on TikTok, Instagram. Check out his YouTube channel. Really, and very inspirational. A lot of the interviews that he's done, whether it's The Rock, Cena, a lot of different people there. So please go and check it out. Chris Van Vliet, thanks for joining us, man.
Dude, thank you, and congrats on everything.
Thanks, brother, man. All right. So, guys, once again, for you guys, if you didn't already do it, please go and check out the live show that we did in New York. It is available on the website right now, thekristianharloff.com. Myself, Mark Ellis, Corey and Martin from Double Toasted did a long podcast, and then Brett, Jen, Kate, and myself all did stand-up, so you can go and check that out. Make sure that you go and check out the comic book. It comes out on July 1st. Done by the great Wicked Art. That will be up there. And then the animated series Shoes and Beef coming out, all found on the website. And last but certainly not least, Katie Sackhoff will be doing her show. Where the hell is that? Shit. Katie Sackhoff will be doing her show at San Diego on July 22nd, 4 to 6. You can get tickets. Tickets are going fast, so you can get it blahblahblahkatie.com, blahblahblahkatie.com, and you can also get the live stream there as well. So thanks again for Chris Van Vliet and myself. We'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.